Aloha and welcome to this Fireside Chat, a series of chats hosted by Haku Global on future intelligence leadership. Today, Command Master Chief Armon Owens will be joining us to speak about optimizing the inner context and how that influences collective intelligence and future readiness. My name is Tyler Mongan, and I am the president of Haku Global. We're an organization dedicated to developing the next generation of future leaders and helping leadership become more future intelligent so they can thrive in uncertainty, complexity, and exponential change. Our Fireside Chat speaker today is Armon Owens. He is a Haku Global Advisory Board member. He is the Command Master Chief and Senior Enlisted Advisor for Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard in Honolulu, Hawaii. He has 23 years of military leadership development and coaching experience. Armon was an award-winning chief of the boat for USS Helena in Norfolk, Virginia, and during his tenure as chief of the boat, the USS Helena completed one of the most successful deployments in recent history. His team was awarded the Meritorious Unit Award for Excellence in Operations, 2 Battle Efficiency Awards for Best Submarine in the Squadron, and a host of other recognitions. Armon is extremely passionate about leadership, culture building, and believes that effective leadership is the scarcest commodity on the planet. As a coach and speaker, Armon's mission is helping people improve their leadership skills and awaken to their possibilities in their personal and professional lives. You can find more of Armon's insights on leadership on his LinkedIn page, where he shares daily and weekly video posts on leadership hacks. So I'm going to turn this over to Armon.
Hello, my name is Armon Owens, and I am representing Haku Global for the second of our Fireside Chats. And today, I'm going to be talking about optimizing the inner context. I have been in the military for 23 years. I am a career submariner, and one of the things that has led me down, the path of getting to the place where I recognize that optimizing the inner context is the direct key to being able to see the future, to optimize your future intelligence, is mainly because of anger. Shuji Nakamura was asked how he became one of the world's greatest living inventors, and his response was by always being angry, never being content with what is, and always hoping and looking for another way. And that's kind of, how I came about, getting to the place of optimizing inner context. In my field in the military, much like the rest of the world, people are struggling with mental health. People are struggling with performance. People are struggling with, getting the results that they're looking for. And I kind of went on a journey out of frustration because the Navy, established a team, kind of outsourced a team, to come in and to begin to look at why we're so stressed out, why we're not performing the way we needed to perform. And, the only solution that they had to this problem was go and work out. Not a lot of studies, not a lot of research. And there's a ton of research that is out there, but that never really came to fruition during those moments. So this kind of my frustration with that team led me to start to look at the research and start to see what truly is out there that can help us be better, feel better, and perform better. And that's how I came to optimizing the inner context. I'm going to go really deep into this as we continue on, but I want to give you some background on where I came from and why I'm here. Another one of the primary reasons for me getting to this point is a few years ago, my wife also, she had she developed thyroid cancer. She's completely well, completely fine right now. That's been years and years and years ago now. But she ended up having to have her take her thyroid out, and I'm in the midst of all this research, and I'm digging into to studies and talking to individuals. But meanwhile, she's having these panic attacks, and during these panic attacks, it kind of debilitates her, and they came out of nowhere. And with the research that I have been looking at, optimizing inner context and, heart-based breathing and HRV and all these different things, kind of began to experiment a little bit on my wife to see how these things, actively play out. And they helped my wife dramatically, with her anxiety and with her panic attacks. And for me, the implications in leadership were huge. So, and I gotta tell you, I don't know if kind of about the thyroid, but it controls just about everything. It controls everything. And knowing that a simple technique was pivotal in being able to help her significantly diminish, those episodes. And like I said, just the implications in leadership and helping people, do better, perform better, be better, and optimize, not only their inner context, but their future intelligence. That was huge for me. And, what I introduced her to was a process called heart-based breathing. Through heart rate variability, which is essentially just a time frame between heartbeats, there's a lot of information that can be extracted, from the consistency or the variability of that time frame between those heartbeats. Typically early on in the 60s and 70s, this research really came into fruition for babies in the womb, because this was the most optimal way to be able to tell whether or not babies were, in fact, in any kind of danger, and they need to be, taken out early, or whatever the case may be. Well, it turns out it works out on big humans as well. And what it is an indicator of what state your nervous system is, right? Heart rate variability is one of the only quantifiable indicators of what level of stress you're currently at. So when you have a low HRV, you're in what's called a sympathetic nervous system state. So what that means is you're literally in freeze, fight, or flight, right? Your brain essentially shuts off because now your nervous system has sensed that you're up against a threat. Therefore, all the higher level processing that your body, your mind, normally uses is no longer relevant, because your body senses a danger and is optimizing, or in this case, de-optimizing your body in an effort to seek out, find a threat, and get away from the threat, and ultimately survival, right? And as you can see, we're kind of running on 1,000-year-old technology, but now we're not running from lions, tigers, and bears, right? We sense threats. Our nervous system sense threats with a deadline that moved, with children, acting not the way that you want them. I mean, just a myriad of things that our body senses as threats. And then we go into a stress state, We, release cortisol in our systems, and we are not optimized. We are running at a deficit, right? Which gets me, to optimizing the inner context, right? HRV, heart-based breathing, helps us to optimize our inner context. And our inner context is merely just all the feelings, thoughts, sensations, emotions, all the things that are going on inside of us, which may influence how we act or interpret the world. Whether we're hungry, whether we're sleepy, whether we're angry, whether we're happy, through that medium, through those lenses, how we see the world defines kind of how and why we need to optimize our inner context. So as you can see here, this amazing picture with these amazing sailors. They were there with me on the USS Helena, and as you can see, we're topside, right? This is the topside, of a submarine, and we had just completed a small boat transfer of personnel. This is how we surface in the, hopefully in protected waters. We bring along a small boat, and we begin to transfer people so that we can continue on with our mission. Well, this time it wasn't very hard. It wasn't very difficult. As you can see, the waters are nice. There's smiles on our face. And, I didn't need to necessarily, optimize my inner context because the threat really wasn't there. Now, mind you, I was new to this as a new chief of the boat, which is the title which is my title on the submarine. And if there is an equivalent, a civilian equivalent to a chief of the boat, just imagine a chief operating officer, right? I have a captain who's the CEO. I have an executive officer, who's somewhere, kind of like the CFO or the CFO. And for me, my job is chief operating officer. Make sure all the submarine is running optimally, making sure all the personnel are doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing at all times. So kind of new to the job, and it was an easy transfer, one of the easiest ones that I had to do. So I didn't really need to optimize my inner context. It was pretty simple. But here's the deal about being on a submarine. The submarine is the very definition of a VUCA environment. It is at any moment, things can change very drastically because for a submarine, we're operating underwater and the water is always trying to get in. It is always trying to get in, right? So we always have to be at our peak self. Don't have a lot of room for error because next time I had to do a personnel transfer, we were in this situation. We're on deployment. We're in one of the coldest places on Earth. And now I'm dealing with extremely tough waters. Moderately, sleep deprived because we're on mission. So not a lot of sleep, When you're in charge, on a submarine, you don't have the leverage to be able to get good night's sleep. You have to optimize that and get as much good sleep as you can, but in spurts. So when we're doing this boat transfer, the pilot that we're bringing on the personnel, we're not very experienced at all. Not experienced. The personnel that we were bringing on board, they did not have the proper shoes on, didn't have the proper equipment on because the topside area is full of ice. It is cold. It is freezing. It is below, well below zero. The wind chill is, deadening. And compound that with the risk of them possibly falling into the water, they're, very likely going to die if they fall into the water. So the situation has changed drastically. We're talking about the volatility at its peak, the uncertainty of the situation, at its peak, just because of, hey, things can change very rapidly. And one of the things that I had to learn how to do is, hey, how can I put myself in peak operating mode at any time, in any situation, under any context? So before I come up topside, before we go and do also you can see there's not a lot of smiles, on the faces here as well, right? But having to optimize prior to, before we are going into this evolution, I am down, I'm doing more heart-based breathing. I am, focusing on the issue, the task at hand, and I am getting myself together, doing my breaths, optimizing my heart. And even in the moment, while I'm doing the transfer, I am optimizing, I'm doing my breathing, because what it allowed me to do was to see things before they were occurring. There was one member who was coming off the boat who was not very sure of himself, not very sure of his footing, kind of awkward. And the fear on his face, told the whole story. He did not want to come across that brow. He did not want to come across, to do that transfer. So because of his lack of trust, his lack of footing, and his fear, when he came up, to actually do the transfer, he almost failed. But luckily, through being optimized and being focused and being locked in, kind of being almost in a flow, type of state, I was able to see that, react to it. No, you grab his hand, get him up there, and we did not have any casualties. We didn't lose anybody. Nobody fell in the water or anything like that. And we're talking about this transfer took hours. We're in this weather for hours. And it wasn't just me that was optimizing inwardly. My entire team was optimizing inwardly so that we could all collectively, because the collective brilliance of a optimized team, there is no problem that team cannot overcome. So we're all optimized. We're all ready. We're all seeing very clearly, all operating optimally, and we got through that. But the complexity of this environment, really calls for members to be optimized inwardly, and that's what we ended up having to do, and that's what we focused on as we did pretty much all of our evolutions, right? So what is future and intelligence leadership? Well, for me, in a word, it's clarity. It's to see the world unencumbered by our own biases, our own limitations, our own insecurities. Right? Seeing the future is pretty improbable, right? Unless you Marty McFly, right? But what we're actually attempting to assess, with future intelligence is this: how do I connect the dots of my present reality in such a way that allows me to predict with a high level of certainty what the future implications are within my organization, within my industry? All right, being able to see things before that happen, just like when I was talking about doing the boat transfer, being able to recognize and see the things that may exist slightly below the surface, right? Recognizing things, these indicators, these points of information that may go missed if I'm clouded, if I'm not clear, right? That's why future intelligence really is about clarity, is about being able to see what most people miss because they're clouded, because they're not optimized inwardly. It's removing the fog and being able to see things the way they are so that you can understand what is the thing that is going to come next. What is most likely going to happen in a month, in a year, in 2 years, in 5 years, right? So today the things that I'm going to be talking about is the optimization, the importance of the optimization of our inner context and how that enhances our ability to predict and anticipate futures despite all of the challenges that we have to deal with currently. And I'm going to talk more about some real world application of inner optimization so that you can apply that not only to your individual life, but to your entire organization. A lot of times what we end up doing in organizations is, we're humans that are just doing. We're focused on the doing, but not humans being. Most leaders and executives, right, we spend most of our time focused on what we need to do in our business and spend very little time thinking about who they are being and how they are interacting with others, right? In business, the focus is virtually always on the outside tangible world. Well, in optimizing the inner context, we're going to take that focus, right, and bring it inwardly, optimize ourselves inwardly so that we can interact with the outside world in a more clear, concise, and measured way. This is what optimizing the inner context does. And like I spoke about earlier, as we seek to compete in a world characterized by ever-increasing volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, we are struggling to meet and surpass our ever-increasing goals and our targets and things that we're hoping for. There's always stories of falling short. How do I get my people to get their performance levels up? And in an effort to improve that performance and grow our business and move our organization forward, leaders are still competing almost exclusively in the area of do, the area of behavior, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. But the truth is, we are drastically overwhelmed as leaders. Our plates are so full. And just like I talked about earlier, we are operating primarily at a deficit. We mistakenly rely on the experience and our intellect to get us through. But the truth is, if we're not optimized inwardly, we don't even have access to our top level intellect and the use of our experience, right? And as things get more complex, more volatile, more uncertain, and more ambiguous, we become more of a liability to our organization than the asset that we think we really are. And when we aren't optimized inwardly, we won't have the clarity, and we will myopically see the current problem that we're dealing with as the problem, not a symptom, not a branch, but we will see the problem that we're currently dealing with, because we put blinders on, as the problem. Something that should be small, something that is minute. Because we're not optimized inwardly, we will focus in on those things and not step back to recognize what is the true origin of that problem, and then go attack that thing, right? We stay in the area kind of do, and we focus in, and we lose the big picture. We get that tunnel vision, right? And our physiology is trying to protect us from a perceived threat, because that's how we respond to it. We respond to that stress, that challenge, as a perceived threat. At least our physiology does, right? Now, like I said earlier, that's useful when you're running from a tiger, but not so much in my situation, when the fate of 160 lives rests in the quality of my next decision, right? So here you see the iceberg iceberg example of a human, essentially, right? What we're looking for at the top is results. We want top results. We want to meet our goals. We want to exceed our goals, and we're looking for results. Optimizing the inner context based on our understanding of the role of our physiology plays in our ultimate production, right? Because most of our approaches in leadership deal mostly with our, at the top right there, behavior. So when we're not performing, we're not having the results that we're looking for, or the organization is looking for, right? We go directly to addressing behavior, right? It's the obvious place to look if we want to understand, and find out why we're not performing. What are you doing? And a lot of the corrective measures that I've, in 23 years in leadership and dealing with this, it's, you need to do better. We address the behavior. Never go really any deeper unless you get a higher level thinker, higher level leader, that understands that maybe their thinking needs to be altered, right? But most managers, most leaders always stay at the behavior place, and the military is just a microcosm for the world, for industry. Right? We operate really no differently than any Fortune 500 company. Right? We have the exact same challenges in leadership. We're spending, industry is spending billions per year on leadership development, and guess what? We're doing the exact same thing, trying to help us maximize our leadership and our effectiveness, and ultimately perform better. Right? But guess what? We're doing just what everybody else is doing, focusing only on behavior. Right? What are the key people in our team? Right? What are they actively doing? What milestones are being met? What goals are being met? And behavior that is most commonly addressed by the variety of business solutions put forward by consultants and coaches. Right? The standard approach usually involves assessing what is currently happening and deciding what needs to be done differently to improve results. So modifying our actions, modifying our behaviors to hopefully get better results, but we're still resting in the behavior zone. Right? The answer to elevated performance does not, therefore, belong to behavior. Why? Because if altering behavior would fix the results, then we wouldn't have to go deeper. But we see, because we continue to spend so much money, we continue to lose so much productivity, we continue to have people jump from job to job, right? Because of performance, it's not behavior. Right? If we want to guarantee that people actually do the right things to deliver the results that we want, we need to understand what really drives their behavior, right? And I want to take a time here, because as a submariner, I don't have the luxury of just firing low performers, right? The military submarine force is, volunteer service, and I get what I get, right? I don't even have the luxury of picking my team. I don't get to do interviews. I don't get to do assessments. Everybody who shows up, we have to make do with what we have, right? And that is the uniqueness, of the submarine force and leadership. We're not getting A+ people. I'm not getting the top of the top of the top. The 1% of the 1% of the 1%. When you see in special ops and things of that nature, I'm not getting those, right? I'm getting people who are, ooh, submarines are cool. Maybe I could do that. That's who I'm getting. That's who I'm getting. And our job, in the submarine force is to get those people to perform higher at a higher level than they ever thought they could, right? And one of the things for me that I am super grateful for is having a CEO alongside, who is Jason Pittman, my commanding officer when I was on the USS Helena, who's an absolutely amazing, phenomenal leader. Having him just buy into the process, because it's an unusual thing to have someone to say, hey, so what we're going to do, we're going to come in, we're going to have everybody optimizing their inner context. We're going to have everybody doing heart-based breathing before they're doing evolutions, before we have meetings, so that we can humanly optimize and do better, right? Which hasn't really, that's kind of outside of the box in the submarine force. And for him to say, absolutely, let's do it. And to be at the forefront of that optimization by leading by example, because we're all, doing the heart-based breathing. We're all optimizing our inner context before we're going into things. And as a result, the awards that we were able to achieve in 3 years, was one of the best in recent history. All right. We've, been awarded by the CNO. We've, 2-time battle efficiency award winners. Just a whole host of recognition. And I think at the root of that was we focused on optimizing our inner context, before we performed, and our results were amazing. So I was lucky, to have, somebody as brilliant, as Jason. So, but as we continue on, we can't just focus on altering behavior to change behavior. So looking at the chart here, it must be our thinking, right? Right. What we think determines what we do, right? We know about the benefits of sticking to a healthy lifestyle, balanced diet, regular physical exercise, and all those good things, right? Don't drink a whole bunch. Well, scientific research shows us that those healthy choices affect mood disorders, heart disease, diabetes, and other medical conditions. We know all these things, right? Heard people often say, yeah, that's not new. Heard all that stuff before, right? But really, how do we actually get over the hump and actually do it? How many of us can admit deep down in our hearts to sticking with the goal, especially for working out or eating right? Knowing about something is completely different than being able to do it consistently. We know the right answer. We know we need to go exercise. We know we need to go eat, right? We know all these things, but guess what, right? There's something prohibiting us from doing those things, right? What we feel has a far bigger impact on what we do than thinking does. Right? If someone is anxious or stressed about something at work, doesn't make any difference if you tell them, hey, look, it's going to be okay. Calm down. Don't worry. Oh, yeah, that's exactly what I needed. Yeah, for you to tell me not to worry. Now everything is going to be good. My thinking is fixed. My behavior is good and my results. No, that's not how anything works. Right? They're already worried. They're already compromised. Their feelings are dragging down their ability to think clearly, which is going to directly affect their behavior, which is going to absolutely affect the results they get in their job. All right? You can't easily overwrite, a feeling with a thought, right? Because our feelings just dominate. Our feelings just dominate our thinking in a lot of cases. You ever think about how our logical mind, right, versus our emotional mind? How many bad decisions have you made because your emotions have taken over, right? And then once your logical thinking kind of catches up, you're like, oh man, I messed this up. You may have lashed out, at somebody, knowing that it's not beneficial to yell at people. It's not beneficial to, to do those things. But because you're feeling upset, feeling angry, feeling frustrated, that overrode your thinking, right? So it's not just our thinking. We also have to go a level deeper into our feelings, all right? But even with our feelings, there's even a level deeper, because how we feel is determined by, is really comes from our emotions, or just energy in motion. And when we have a stimulus, there's a response. That stimulus, all it is just energy in motion. That's all emotions are, right? And they directly affect our feelings. We interpret what that energy is, by what we are accustomed to, right? And the reason, it's so hard to control or change the way that we feel, is because of that raw emotion, right? And it's occurring, beneath the surface without us, even realizing it. And that raw energy pulsing throughout our body is already in transit. Once it's already going, it's pretty hard to, to mitigate and to stop it. And the reason this raw energy is coursing through our body in the first place is because at a even deeper level, down in the basement of the human system, is our physiology, or our biological reactions and processes. So what is really driving our behavior is thinking. And what we think and how we feel, right, is determined. How we think is determined by how we feel, which is driven by our emotions, which are totally made up from our physiology. As you can see here, my submarine is entering our operational area during deployment. Or not. Obviously, it's just that's a redacted, operational picture of a submarine, because a lot of what we do is pretty much classified. We wind up in some of the most dangerous areas in the world, and if you talk to a submariner, they're gonna tell you where they haven't been. They're gonna say that we had a good time, but we weren't supposed to be there. All these different things, right? But a lot of what we do is absolutely classified, but it is absolutely dangerous, absolutely, pivotal, that we are, optimized inwardly. And, for one of the things I want to do now is, just kind of, briefly show you, what we would do before meetings, before evolutions, to make sure that our inner context was optimized. And it's very, very simple, right? It is, we would, recognize, find, you can find your heartbeat. It's just bring your focus to your heartbeat, right? You can feel your pulse here on your wrist, or, your jugular, right? Or, just feel your heartbeat on your chest. Bring your focus there and just breathe in consistently. All right. So whatever your inhale, exhale, seconds, 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out, 6 seconds in, 4 seconds out, six in, 6 out, as long as it's consistent. Doing that for a time frame of 3 to 5 minutes. Obviously longer is better. But what that does is it sends a signal to your brain. Sends a signal to your brain, to your nervous system, that everything is fine. And not only is it fine, it is awesome, right? Because when we manipulate our heartbeats, when we manipulate our breathing in that way, all it is just telling our bodies, oh, we are perfect. Everything is good, right? And the cool part about it is that it's cumulative, right? So when you have a stress situation that comes, and you have a stress stimulus, your response, which maybe was compromised because you weren't optimized a week prior, that same stimulus that will come and affect you because you've been optimizing inwardly is not going to affect you in the same way, right? You build up that neuroplasticity, or that resilience, or that grit in your physiology that allows you to take that same hit without any problems, without any issues. You're able to bounce back extremely quickly, and it's not something that deteriorates you in a way that if you were compromised inwardly, how that would drive you down, sap you of your energy. Right? This, optimizing inwardly maintains your level of energy, allows you to be in control, to regulate your emotions, keep your blood pressure down. The benefits are endless, right? Because during this deployment, during this time, our sailors were struggling. We were gone for about 6 months, and I got to tell you, not being able to communicate with families, not being able to reach back, it was hard. But this, bringing this into play, bringing this into fruition, for the crew, did wonders. There were numerous times where we had sailors who were ready to quit, and we would bring them in, have them go through a session, teach them, how to do this process, and watch them blossom and grow and be able to deal, with the complexity of submarine operations a lot better. Me personally knowing that my decisions were clear, were made with clarity, with taking all the applicable information that I had, allowed me to help my crew, serve my crew in a manner that brought my best self to bear. I had my chiefs doing heart-based breathing, after standing watch, after some of there's some of the most serious operations, that a submarine can do, so they can legitimately reset and bounce back and be at their best. Optimizing the inner context is quite possibly the surest way, to improve and to achieve better results. And it's not theoretically. This is proven. I've done this in mission area in some of the most dangerous places on Earth and watched us thrive, not just survive in the midst of a VUCA environment where some people are comfortable with, but thriving in the midst of complexity. And I gotta tell you, if it works on a submarine, it will work in your organization or whatever field you exist in. And that's my time. That's my presentation. And I appreciate everyone listening and being part of Haku Global's Fireside Chat. And we have another one coming up August the 25th. I'm going to continue to do this, and in an effort to help others, help industry, help individuals, help teams become more optimized so that they can utilize future intelligence to help their industry, to help their organization move forward in the midst of some of the most complex times that we're dealing with. All right. Thank you for listening, and I appreciate it.